One of the quietest ways intimacy disappears from a relationship is when emotional distance becomes part of the daily routine. At first, it may seem harmless. You stop asking how your partner really feels. Conversations become shorter. You talk about work, bills, responsibilities, schedules, but rarely about what is happening inside your hearts. There is a kind of distance in relationships that can be more dangerous than an argument. It is the distance that happens quietly. There may be no shouting, no dramatic breakup, no obvious betrayal. You may still eat dinner together, sleep in the same room, exchange messages throughout the day, and continue living what appears to be a normal life. But somewhere beneath the routine, something has changed. You stop asking what your partner is really feeling. They stop telling you what is really happening inside them. And slowly, without either person noticing, emotional distance becomes the new normal. This is one of the most overlooked mistakes that can quietly kill intimacy in a relationship. Because intimacy is not simply about physical closeness, it begins with emotional connection. Before two people can truly feel close physically, they usually need to feel seen, heard, respected, and emotionally safe. Think about the early stages of a relationship. You want to know everything about the other person. What makes them happy? What scares them? What are their dreams? What happened during their day? What are they thinking about when they suddenly become quiet? You pay attention because you are curious. You don't just hear their words, you look for the meaning behind them. But over time, familiarity can replace curiosity. You assume you already know your partner. You stop asking questions because you think you know the answers. You stop listening deeply because the conversation feels predictable. And this is where emotional intimacy can begin to disappear. The dangerous part is that emotional disconnection often doesn't feel serious at first. Maybe you are both busy. Maybe work has become stressful. Maybe responsibilities have increased. Maybe you are exhausted. So you tell yourself, we'll reconnect when things calm down. But life rarely becomes completely calm. There will always be another responsibility, another deadline, another problem to solve. If you keep waiting for the perfect moment to reconnect, you may eventually discover that the emotional gap has become much larger than you expected. That's why you have to become intentional. Don't only talk about what needs to be done, talk about what needs to be felt. Instead of asking only, did you pay the bill? Ask, how are you actually doing? Instead of saying, you're always quiet, try saying, I've noticed you've seemed distant lately. Is something on your mind? Instead of immediately offering advice, sometimes simply listen. Your partner may not need a solution. They may need to know that their feelings are safe in your presence. That kind of emotional safety is powerful. When people feel heard without immediately being criticized, dismissed, or corrected, they become more willing to open their hearts. And when they stop feeling emotionally safe, they often begin protecting themselves. They share less. They communicate less. They become more guarded. Eventually, you may wonder why your partner doesn't talk to you anymore. But sometimes the better question is, when they tried to talk to me before, how did I respond? Did you listen? Did you interrupt? Did you minimize their feelings? Did you immediately defend yourself? Did you turn their vulnerability into an argument? These small moments matter because every interaction teaches your partner something about whether it is safe to come closer or safer to stay silent. And this doesn't mean you have to agree with everything your partner says. Healthy intimacy doesn't require agreement on every issue. It requires respect. You can disagree and still listen. You can have different perspectives and still make your partner feel valued. You can say, I see this differently, but I understand why you feel that way. That sentence can create more connection than a long argument ever could. Remember this, people don't only want to be loved, they want to feel known. They want to feel that the person beside them notices their changes, remembers their dreams, recognizes their struggles, and appreciates who they are becoming. So if you feel that intimacy in your relationship has started fading, don't immediately assume that the love is gone. Sometimes the connection is simply buried beneath neglect, routine, stress, and silence. Start small. Ask one meaningful question today. Listen without reaching for your phone. Give your partner your full attention. Tell them something you appreciate about them. And most importantly, become curious about them again. Because the person you love today is not exactly the same person you met years ago. People change. Their dreams change. Their fears change. Their priorities change. Their needs change. And if you want lasting intimacy, you have to keep discovering each other. Never let familiarity become an excuse to stop paying attention. Never let routine convince you that connection can take care of itself. and never underestimate the power of simply being present. Because emotional intimacy doesn't usually disappear overnight. It disappears when two people repeatedly stop reaching for each other. And the beautiful truth is this: if distance can be created through small moments of neglect, connection can also be rebuilt through small moments of intention. One conversation, one honest question, one moment of listening, one sincere expression of appreciation. Sometimes that's where intimacy begins again. One of the most dangerous mistakes in a relationship is also one of the easiest to overlook: taking each other for granted. It rarely begins with bad intentions. You don't wake up one morning and decide, I'm going to stop appreciating my partner. Instead, familiarity slowly changes the way you behave. In the beginning, you notice everything. You notice their smile. You remember the little things they like. You send thoughtful messages. You make an effort with your appearance. You say thank you. You tell them how attractive they are. You celebrate their accomplishments. You make them feel special because you genuinely want them to know how much they matter. But then time passes. The relationship becomes comfortable. And comfort is beautiful. But comfort without appreciation can quietly become neglect. You begin assuming your partner already knows you love them. You think, they know how I feel. So you stop saying it. You stop complimenting them. You stop noticing the small things. You stop expressing gratitude for what they contribute. And eventually, your partner may begin feeling invisible. This is where intimacy can suffer, because people don't simply need love to exist in the relationship. They need to experience that love. Imagine doing something for someone you care about every single day. You support them. You listen to them. You make sacrifices. You handle responsibilities. You try to make their life easier. And after a while, nobody acknowledges it. Wouldn't you eventually wonder whether what you do matters? That feeling can slowly create emotional distance. Your partner may not always say, I don't feel appreciated. Instead, it may appear as irritability, withdrawal, reduced affection, or a lack of enthusiasm. And sometimes the issue isn't that love disappeared. It's that appreciation disappeared. That's why small expressions of gratitude are so powerful. Say, thank you for doing that. Say, I really appreciate you. Say, I noticed how hard you worked today. Say, you look amazing. Say, I'm lucky to have you. These statements may take only a few seconds, but they communicate something deeply important. I see you. And being seen is one of the foundations of intimacy. Don't reserve appreciation for birthdays, anniversaries, or special occasions. Make it part of ordinary life. Appreciate the coffee your partner makes. Appreciate the way they support you when you're stressed. Appreciate their sense of humor. Appreciate the way they care for the family. Appreciate their effort, even when the result isn't perfect. Because appreciation isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about refusing to let the good things become invisible simply because they happen every day. There is another danger in taking someone for granted: comparison. When appreciation disappears, people sometimes start noticing what their partner doesn't do instead of what they do. You focus on the missing things. The flaws become louder. The mistakes become easier to remember. And suddenly, the person you once admired becomes a list of complaints. But ask yourself something. When was the last time you deliberately focused on what is good about your partner? Not what needs fixing. Not what annoys you. Not what you wish were different. What is good? What made you fall in love with them? What qualities still make you proud to have them in your life? What do they do that you would genuinely miss if they were gone? These questions can change your perspective, because sometimes intimacy doesn't need a dramatic rescue. Sometimes it needs renewed attention. You don't have to buy expensive gifts. You don't need elaborate romantic gestures. You don't need a perfect relationship. You simply need to stop assuming that your partner automatically knows they are valued. Tell them. Show them. Demonstrate it through your behavior. And remember something important: appreciation should go both ways. You shouldn't have to earn basic respect by being perfect. Healthy intimacy grows when both people consistently recognize each other's humanity, effort, vulnerability, and value. So today, look at your partner differently. Not as someone who is simply part of your routine. Not as someone who will always be there no matter how you behave. But as a person who has chosen to share part of their life with you. That choice deserves appreciation. Because love can survive difficult seasons. It can survive disagreements. It can survive imperfections. But when two people repeatedly stop making each other feel valued, something inside the relationship can slowly become empty. Don't wait until your partner says, you don't appreciate me anymore. Don't wait until affection disappears. Don't wait until emotional distance becomes impossible to ignore. Start with the smallest thing. Say thank you. Give a genuine compliment. Notice their effort. Hold their hand. Look into their eyes. Tell them what you admire about them. Because sometimes the difference between a relationship that slowly becomes cold and one that stays deeply connected isn't a huge romantic gesture. It's the daily decision to say, I still see you. I still value you. And I never want you to feel invisible beside me. One of the fastest ways to weaken intimacy is to make your partner feel like they can never get anything right. It may start with small comments. Why did you do it that way? You always forget. You never listen. You should have known better. At first, these comments may seem insignificant, but when criticism becomes a pattern, something changes inside the relationship. Your partner begins to feel judged instead of understood. And when someone constantly feels judged, they eventually stop opening up. Think about it. Would you freely share your fears, mistakes, dreams, and insecurities with someone who immediately criticizes you? Probably not. You would protect yourself. You might become quieter. You might avoid difficult conversations. You might stop sharing details about your day because you already expect a negative reaction. That is how emotional intimacy slowly disappears. The problem isn't that couples should never point out problems. Healthy relationships require honesty. There will be disagreements, mistakes, frustrations, and things that need to change. The real danger is turning a problem into an attack on the person's character. There is a huge difference between saying, I felt hurt when that happened, and saying, you are selfish. There is a difference between, can we talk about how we handled that? And, you always ruin everything. One statement addresses behavior, the other attacks identity. And when conversations become personal attacks, people naturally become defensive. Instead of listening, they prepare a counterattack. Instead of understanding, they start keeping score. Instead of asking, how can we solve this? Both people start asking, how can I prove that I'm right? That is not intimacy. That is emotional competition. And relationships are not supposed to be competitions where one person wins and the other loses. If your goal is to build closeness, your goal should not be to win every argument. Your goal should be to protect the connection while addressing the problem. This requires learning how to communicate frustration without destroying emotional safety. Instead of saying, you never care about me, explain what you actually need. I felt unimportant when you didn't check in with me. I would really appreciate it if we could communicate more. That gives your partner something they can understand and respond to. Criticism says, you are the problem. Healthy communication says, there is a problem, and I want us to work through it together. That difference can completely change the emotional atmosphere of a relationship. Another mistake is criticizing your partner in front of other people. You might think it's just a joke. You might laugh about their mistakes with friends or family, but embarrassment can create resentment. Your partner may smile in the moment while quietly feeling disrespected. Intimacy requires trust, and trust becomes weaker when someone feels that their partner might expose or ridicule them publicly. Protect your partner's dignity. If something needs to be discussed, find a private moment. Speak honestly, but speak with respect. And don't underestimate the power of appreciation during difficult conversations. If you need to address something your partner did wrong, you can still acknowledge what they do right. You might say, I love you, and I know you care about us. There's something I want us to work on together. Those words communicate that the relationship is not under attack. The issue is the issue. Your partner is not your enemy. This doesn't mean you should suppress your feelings or tolerate unhealthy behavior. It means you can have strong boundaries without using humiliation, insults, or constant criticism. You can be honest without being cruel. You can be disappointed without becoming disrespectful. You can disagree without making your partner feel worthless. And this is especially important because repeated criticism can eventually change how partners see themselves around each other. They become careful. They measure every word. They avoid vulnerability. They stop being playful. They stop initiating affection because rejection or criticism feels likely. And once emotional safety disappears, physical intimacy can suffer too. Closeness becomes difficult when one person is constantly wondering, am I good enough for you? So ask yourself, does my partner feel safe being imperfect around me? Can they make a mistake without being reminded of every mistake they've made before? Can they express an opinion without being mocked? Can they tell me they are struggling without immediately receiving judgment? Can we disagree without destroying each other's dignity? These questions matter because nobody needs a perfect partner. People need a partner with whom they can be human. Your relationship will have difficult conversations. That's unavoidable. But difficult conversations don't have to become destructive conversations. The next time frustration rises, pause before you speak. Ask yourself, am I trying to solve this problem, or am I trying to hurt this person because I'm hurt? That one question can save a relationship from countless unnecessary wounds. Choose your words carefully. Not because your feelings don't matter, but because the person listening matters too. Remember, intimacy grows where people feel safe enough to be honest. And when your partner knows that honesty won't automatically lead to criticism, they are far more likely to come closer instead of pulling away. You don't have to agree on everything. You don't have to avoid conflict. You simply need to learn how to fight for the relationship rather than fighting against each other. Because the strongest couples aren't the ones who never disagree. They're the ones who can disagree and still say, "You are not my enemy. We are on the same team, and I want us to find our way through." One of the most dangerous things you can do to intimacy is pretend that everything is fine when something inside you is not fine. Resentment rarely arrives all at once. It usually begins with something small, a disappointment you never discussed, an apology you never received, a promise that was broken, a moment when you felt ignored, disrespected, or misunderstood. You tell yourself, it's not worth bringing up, so you stay quiet. Then another disappointment happens. You stay quiet again, and another, until the things you never said begin forming an emotional wall between you and the person you love. That is how resentment grows. And the most dangerous thing about resentment is that it can exist quietly. You may still say good morning. You may still go to work. You may still have dinner together. You may still smile for other people. But inside, you're keeping a record. You remember every disappointment, every argument, every broken promise, every time you felt like your feelings didn't matter. And eventually, your partner may wonder why you've become colder, why you're less affectionate, why you don't seem excited anymore. But the truth is, emotional closeness becomes difficult when the heart is carrying unresolved pain. This is why communication matters. Not the kind of communication where you explode after months of silence. The kind where you address problems while they are still manageable. There is a difference between saying, "I'm upset because of what happened, and I want us to talk about it," and waiting until months later and saying, "You always do this. You never change." The first creates an opportunity for repair. The second creates a battlefield. You cannot build deep intimacy on top of unspoken resentment. Eventually, the buried emotions will find a way to appear. They may come out through sarcasm, coldness, avoidance, constant irritation, loss of affection, or arguments about things that aren't really the problem. Sometimes a couple argues about the dishes, the phone, money, or someone's schedule. But underneath the argument is something much deeper. I don't feel appreciated. I don't feel respected. I don't feel heard. I don't feel like we're a team anymore. If you only argue about the surface, the real wound remains untouched. So learn to ask yourself, what am I actually hurt about? Maybe you're not angry because your partner forgot something. Maybe you're hurt because forgetting made you feel unimportant. Maybe you're not upset because they came home late. Maybe you're afraid that you aren't a priority. Maybe you're not frustrated because they were quiet. Maybe you miss feeling emotionally connected to them. When you identify the real emotion underneath the anger, you can finally communicate what you actually need. And remember, bringing up a problem isn't the same as attacking your partner. You can say, "I don't want to fight with you. I want us to understand each other." You can say, "Something has been bothering me, and I don't want it to turn into resentment." You can say, "I want to tell you how I felt, not blame you." That approach changes everything. It invites your partner into the conversation instead of putting them on trial. But there is another side to unresolved resentment: forgiveness. Forgiveness doesn't mean pretending something never happened. It doesn't mean accepting repeated disrespect. And it doesn't mean abandoning your boundaries. Forgiveness means deciding that you don't want to spend the rest of your relationship being controlled by an old wound. If your partner genuinely takes responsibility, changes their behavior, and makes an effort to repair the damage, allow the possibility of healing. Don't keep punishing someone forever for a mistake they are genuinely working to correct. At the same time, don't confuse forgiveness with ignoring patterns. If someone repeatedly hurts you and refuses to take responsibility, the answer isn't simply to suppress your feelings. Healthy relationships require accountability. Real repair requires both people to participate. One person needs to be willing to say, "I hurt you." The other needs to be willing to say, "I want to heal, but I need to see change." That's how trust can begin rebuilding. And sometimes the most powerful sentence in a relationship is simply, "I'm sorry. I understand why that hurt you. Not, I'm sorry, but you made me do it. Not, I'm sorry you feel that way. A genuine apology takes responsibility. It doesn't make excuses. It doesn't turn the blame back onto the other person. And when sincere accountability is followed by consistent change, emotional intimacy has room to grow again. So don't allow resentment to become a permanent resident in your relationship. Talk about the things that hurt. Listen to the things that hurt your partner. Take responsibility where you need to. Set boundaries where necessary. Forgive when forgiveness is earned and safe. And remember that every relationship will experience wounds. The goal isn't to create a relationship where nobody ever hurts anyone. The goal is to create a relationship where both people know how to repair the damage when hurt happens. Because intimacy isn't about never having problems. It's about knowing that problems don't have to permanently separate you. Don't let yesterday's pain steal today's connection. Don't let one unresolved conversation become years of emotional distance. And don't assume silence means peace. Sometimes silence is simply pain that hasn't found the courage to speak. Choose to speak with honesty. Choose to listen with humility. Choose to repair instead of keeping score. Because when two people stop collecting evidence against each other and start working together toward healing, something powerful happens. The walls begin to come down. Trust begins to return. Affection becomes easier. And intimacy gets another chance to breathe. A strong relationship isn't one without wounds. It's one where two people care enough to heal them.